All right. All right, I'd like to welcome everyone to the August 6th, 2020 meeting of the Delaware County Board of Commissioners. Would you please rise and join me in the pledge? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. I'm Jeff Benton, President of the Board. To my right is Vice President Gary Merrill and our Administrator Mike Fromer. To my left is fellow Commissioner Barb Lewis, and Sarah DeNova is clerking today. So we can begin.
Resolution number 20-667, in the matter of approving the electronic record of proceedings from regular meeting held August 3rd, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, vote.
Vote on motion 20-667. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 20-668, in the matter of approving purchase orders, then and now certificates and payments of warrants in batch number CMA PR 0805 and memo transfers in batch numbers NTA PR 0805.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, vote.
Vote on motion 20-668. Mrs. Lewis?
Oh,
That's you,
aye, sorry.
Mr. Merrill?
in case you forgot.
Thank you.
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 20-669, in the matter of acknowledging receipt of annexation petition from the agent for the petitioner, Michael
moved.
R. Shea,
Oh, go ahead, finish it. I thought you paused. I thought you were done.
attorney at law, requesting annexation of 78.017 acres of land in Berlin and Berkshire Townships to the village of Sunbury.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, vote.
Vote on motion 20-669. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 20-670, in the matter of rescinding resolution number 20-624.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jane Hawes, Director of Communications. We have before you a resolution to rescind one that we passed on July 23rd regarding the allowing Main Street Delaware to use the old jail, Law Library, for the Hidden Spaces Tour. In light of the ongoing challenges with the pandemic, we felt it was probably most prudent to not allow a tour to go through there. So this resolution does rescind the previous one and denies the permit.
Have the parties been made aware of it? Are they understanding?
Yes, I have sent it to Susie. She was away on vacation last week and hasn't acknowledged it yet, but I'll follow up with a phone call just to make sure.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because it is a great tour.
It
and
is,
It's
yeah.
a neat part of the tour, but again, practically speaking, compliance with the directives for
Well-
gatherings and distancing and so on is difficult.
Yeah, no, and I pointed out to her, we'll be able to offer them the historic courthouse next year as part of this tour, which will definitely be much easier to have
yes.
groups going through anyway, so,
Much more pleasant.
yeah.
Yeah,
Hopefully this is not an issue next year.
No, hopefully not. Yeah.
okay. Vote, please.
Vote on motion 20-670. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Thank you.
Resolution number 20-671, in the matter of approving a transfer of funds and a supplemental appropriation.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Good morning, Commissioners. Karen First, Fiscal Manager. The first transfer on this resolution is to the Capital Improvements Fund. It's for the second quarter casino revenue distribution. Of course, it's a lot less than normal.
I was going to
because
say,
of
is
the-
that all it was? 46?
Yes, it was
Wow.
13 days because they were able to reopen as of June
Late.
18th, so
Yeah. Wow.
92% drop, but we'll see what next quarter brings. So. And then the second transfer is the cash match for the Sheriff's Office LEAP grant that was awarded on July 1st, and it was budgeted. So, and then the supplemental appropriation is for the change orders for the Rudder West Drainage Improvement Project. So.
Okay. Vote.
Vote on motion 20-671. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Karen.
Resolution number 20-672, in the matter of approving supplemental appropriations for the Board of Elections.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Welcome.
Hello, it's Anthony Sadie and Carla Herron from Board of Elections. We've received $173,914 from the CARES Act from the state, which is federal funds, though. You guys have any questions, or?
Is this it?
This is all for the purpose of PPE, anything that would, that this pandemic would have required us to go above
Additional
and beyond
spending.
for. So it can be used for anything. We're using it for specifically like an additional envelope printing machine that we use to send out absentees. We've appropriated money for overtime and for extra staff to come in and help process absentees. We also have, extra ballot stock and things along those lines.
Is this the extent of the funding that we'll get from the federal organizations?
We have not
Not sure.
heard anything else.
No, but we have received, I don't know if this is what you're asking, but so far from federal money or HAVA, which is Health America Vote Act, some of that was not considered CARES, but it was for reimbursement for the primary and how much money we had to spend for the primary election, and the last minute, all of the supplies and things we purchased. And it was a total of $181,000 and some change. And so collectively, from federal money, we've received a total of $365,000.
With this and the other funding you mentioned? Okay. Do you think there'll be additional funding?
We've been told there is going to be additional money, but we have
Obviously,
not
they're,
seen that.
I know they're negotiating, trying to figure that out.
Yes, and they have asked us to fill out surveys of what we have in stock, what our wish list is. And so we have submitted those. They've been on, about every 2 weeks, approximately, the survey?
The surveys, yeah, they've kind of been the same survey, just kind of reiterating, asking us what we plan to send out, what we think we need for the election. I think they're trying to get a finger on the pulse.
Okay. Okay, we'll take a vote.
Vote on motion 20-672. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Now we have an update on the general
Yeah.
election.
It's kind of a lead-in to the discussion on the election. Turn it over to the two of you.
Sir, Commissioners, we just mentioned to you the money that we received from the federal money, but also just as an update for the reimbursement for last year's elections. We did a charge back to all the entities that put something on the ballot. And just as an update for this year, it was incurred, the expenses were incurred last year, but that was a total of $361,000 and some change that it will be or is returned to the general fund this year. So that's a grand total of over $725,000 that we're talking about to help with some of the expenses of the election. That's, I don't know if you call that good news, but we do want to give you some bad news. The bad news is that the last election was very expensive. We did not really realize any savings for what we'll call the first election, because we'd already done all the in-person, we'd done the absentee voting, we already deployed our machines, we trained all of our workers, we had everything set up, and we were ready for that election. We did, our board voted to go ahead and pay our workers. They'd not the full price, but for the training and the setup and everything, because they did take days off of work and the time out of their life. So there was basically no savings. And then we did another election that went on beyond and did a full election again. So we just want to be really upfront. There was absolutely no savings. We actually had additional overtime because of the additional workload. And mail absentee voting is more expensive. It takes more labor. The mail ballot is expensive. And so, which another update is, we are doing everything moving forward. All of the guidance we have received to date is that we are going to be having all three types of voting: in-person absentee, mail absentee, and then in-person on election day. And with all of the rules and regulations, which you know as well as anyone, what those all require, we took a look at our building, and we know it's inadequate for this election as far as space. And I believe we've had conversations either through John Melvin or directly, to you, But we looked at our space, and for the in-person voting, if we did social distancing and complied with the rules, we could only do about 4 check-in stations. We need approximately 12 to check people in. So we know we need to use the conference room. So what we did is we looked at, can we move in-person absentee voting in a presidential? Absolutely not. We believe voters would be confused, where to go vote. Moving it between a primary and a general, that could be lawsuits, is what we believe for the county. And so we said, what can we move off-site? We believe we can train our poll workers off-site. So we started to look at a location, and I believe there's conversations you offered to us through John Melvin, the Career Center, the Bigsby building. And we met with John yesterday afternoon and went out, and I think it will be great. If we could use that through this election, we believe we can train poll workers. We think we'll train about 600 in person. We do train 1,000 people, but if they've been trained in the last couple of elections, we're very fortunate to have Anthony on board. His background in filmmaking and just what he does, we've actually created an online training course. And so we're going to offer that for the people that don't want to come in a room with a lot of other people, they don't feel comfortable, they could take the online training at home. There is a test, so we can make sure that they're up to speed. But we're hoping that if that will be either whether they will work or not, that's something we can offer a worker, because this is a really hard ask, to ask people to come in and work on Election Day.
Sure.
It's been very challenging. We've had people ask, how can you expect people to come in and put themselves at risk? But it's what we do, and the voters have a right to vote. So with your permission, we are going to use the Delaware Career Center, the old building, if that is, doable for you. We would like to do that. We think that that's the best for November process. So I threw a lot at you in a short amount of time, because I know we promised we would be brief. So we're happy to answer any questions. I just vow to the commissioners that Anthony and I will do everything we can to make sure that we have the best election under the circumstances and the current environment for our voters, and move forward to have all 3 types of voting and comply with all the rules. And we're happy to answer any questions.
I think what you did with the primary was supernatural. I mean, back and forth as far
Evening
as, are we going to
before.
have a primary and then we're not? Like the in-person voting on primary day, and then you're told, no, and then you're told yes, and then you're told no again. But anyway, you marshaled people together, and you were ready, even though you had 0 notice.
Thank you, Commissioner Liz, but you know what? We did not do that on our own. We have the best county. And I know you got an update, but our EMA and people through this county that stepped up to say, we'll work for you, they stepped up and said, we'll get the word out if you need, a lot of people are canceling at the last minute, like 300 people. But we
300
recruited those same people over the weekend, that many more. And the way this county said, we're here for you, we could not have done it. We could not have done it. It was not us. It was the whole county, honestly. Honestly, it was.
Very humble as usual.
It especially wasn't me. I just had a baby right before then, so I was actually on leave.
Especially. Yeah, congratulations.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. So, well, anyway, do you expect changes to continue up until Election Day or maybe early voting day?
I don't know about Carla, but I expect anything to happen.
Yeah.
We're preparing for everything. We're keeping the possibility of an all-mail in the back of our head if they decide to do what they did last time. We just have to be prepared for everything.
And that means expense.
Right.
Just again, we want to tell you and be upfront, because in order to have that base for us to do all mail, you have to have the supplies, the product, the people, the training, and we have to plan for it. I don't think we
Right.
have an option to plan for it to be the traditional with all of the social distancing items and rules in place, and we have to be prepared if they go all mail. We've never in Delaware County did anything close to an all mail. This was more ballots, even in the primary. To do 40,000 was huge for our office. We really were not prepared for that. We did it, but we had so many things we would have to put in place. And Delaware County votes, our voters turnout, I know you all know this as well as I know that 80% turnout in a presidential in the last 3-4 elections. It's 79, 80, 81, 82%. We are always number 1 or number 2 in the state. And if that happens, people figure out a way to vote, and that could be over 100,000 mail ballots. Now, again, many people won't do that. I don't think the turnout would be that high, but this is an important election, and it's possible. We have to plan for at least 100,000.
How many registered voters do we have right now?
Yeah, close to
Approximately?
150,000.
150,
It's
okay.
147.
How much? I'm sorry.
It's 140,500, I believe, in round numbers.
Okay.
Okay. And what's the deadline for registering to vote?
Yes, it's October the 5th, and then
Okay.
the vote center in person, we'll mail everything out on October the 6th and then beyond.
What percent of votes last at the governor's election 2 years ago did we receive in mail, absentee? It was 35, 40%, wasn't it?
It actually was less than that.
It was less than
In
that?
the presidential, that's about what the presidential hit.
So the presidential, it does go up?
Yeah, it was, I think it was in the 20s. I don't have that exact number, and I'll get it for you. But again, Delaware County votes on Election Day.
Right,
for the
right.
most part. You hear other counties saying 50%, 65%. In Delaware County, the most I believe we've ever done is about 43% tops in a presidential for, absentee.
For absentee.
Okay.
Okay.
Real question?
Yeah, I'm just sitting here debating the comment about mail. I'm going to make a comment. There's such a misunderstanding about mail voting, and I happened to be on social media a couple of nights ago, and 10 reasons why mail voting is a good idea. And this came from a prominent person within our state. I'm not going to identify that person. I chose to respond. The confusion is between absentee voting and mail voting. A lot gets lost in the translation. There's completely two different things. There are states that are talking about sending a vote to everybody who's registered. And we're setting ourselves up for, and I don't even want you to comment because you have a role and you have to be politically correct. I can comment. That is going to encourage and make this an election that's not going to have any credibility whatsoever. Absentee voting, by the same token, is a good thing in the sense that you make the request, you send a ballot, and that process is in place, and it's worked great. But the distinction between those two has been blurred considerably. And then I hear our Secretary of State talk about having drop-off points throughout the counties. I think I heard 1,000. I know we had one last year at our location, but if our Secretary of State somehow, in his wisdom, determines that's a good thing, we're setting ourselves up for harvesting of votes. People can drop off 20, 30, 40 and throw them in a box. And being a poll worker who sees the credibility of the process, you come in, you show your driver's license, you're identified as a legitimate voter, and you vote. And then to circumvent the whole system by doing things like I just described, it's disappointing. And it's going to result in a less than credible election that's going to have doubts about, was this an honest election? So I just felt appropriate time to make that statement in trying to draw the distinction between voting by mail and voting absentee. And there's a huge difference between the two. And I don't even want you to comment. Just wanted to make that point. And
I would echo that, and there have been documented numerous cases of fraud and ballot harvesting, or vote harvesting, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Across the country in various areas where they do send out just blanket.
in Orange County, California, they say in the last election, the harvesting of votes changed the results in that election.
Right. Great. So yeah, it clearly opens it up for fraud, no doubt about it.
And I think our county does a tremendous job, but we're one county out of thousands. And it doesn't matter how good a job we do, if the other 87 counties aren't doing as good a job, not to mention the other 49 states. So
What was the Secretary of State then suggesting regarding drop-off points?
We received a copy, all of us received a copy of a letter to the Attorney General asking for an opinion. And that is, one, if drop boxes would be legal to continue because it was specifically in that House bill that gave us direction for the primary, that told us we had to have the drop box, we had to have a camera on it, and everything was laid out. He
At our
asked
office.
at our
Yeah.
office, just in our office, because the law says that a voter has to return the ballot to the director. And that can either be in person, by themselves, or a family member, or it has to come by mail. So the secretary asked, one, are we going to go ahead and continue that, and is it lawful? Secondly, can we have thousands? It actually had an S on it, I believe, thousands around the state. And that opinion was requested, I think it's been 2 weeks ago?
Maybe 3 weeks.
Maybe 3 weeks ago. So we're not sure what there has been no opinion at this point. So if that's, I think that's what you're referencing, Commissioner, and we have not received word whether or not that will be the case. If it does look like how the primary was laid out, it does have to have a camera on it, but I don't know how we would do that around the
but
county.
it's reasonable to assume if you have thousands, you're not going to have a camera on
It has to have a it had to have a camera on it, and it had to have a bipartisan team opening it and grabbing it, which we had to empty ours. On election day, we had to empty ours sometimes every hour, multiple times an hour.
We received 10,000 the last day of voting.
On election day. So if we have to do that, I don't want to, you're right, don't comment.
And another topic that I've read about is that the voting may not be finalized on Election Day, because of the absentee ballots. And could you kind of explain how absentee ballots are counted?
That's, there's a big shift in the law over the last probably 10 years. And with no fault absentee and the ballots, now they have to be postmarked by the day before. And then you receive, whatever, if they're received within 10 days, then those are counted and we process those. But again, what they're concerned about is not just that, but also the last minute drop. If it was 10,000 in the primary, it could be 2, 3, 4 times that amount. And to process those, and I think, Commissioner, your point is you do have to check every one of those. The outside envelope has to be time-stamped.
Theoretically, you have to check every one of those
That's right.
at the poll closing.
Yep.
Otherwise, they've been done after the fact. If you do it before, then someone could complain, you picked it up at 7:25, well, I got there at 7:28. And that's impractical.
You're absolutely right. It has to be time-stamped on the outside. The inside envelope has to look at everything on it. Does the signature match, the name and everything? And then you have to open it and make sure the inside ballot is the same number that we assign that person. And so it is very labor-intensive. That's when we spoke to earlier, that the mail absentee is a very expensive way to vote. We have to check that and then flatten the ballot and then run it through. And it has to be by law tabulated on election. So they're saying there's no way we'll have results. If that's the case, what we're used to is by 11 o'clock at night, that you can lay that out and see, is that going to even be possible? I think most of us know it's probably not going to happen. And again, we can't go home. We would continue to count. It's not like we'd say, hey, we're tired. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. We're not allowed to leave until every ballot is through. So, and then those outstanding ballots that continue to come in the mail for 10 days.
But they got to be postmarked.
They do, the day before the election.
So it gets back to the concern on the other issues.
Yeah, and the drop boxes, if there would be the hypothetical drop boxes, those ballots have to be in our office by 7:30 or they won't be timely. They're not a postmarked ballot. The law says they have to be in our office by 7:30. And so that's going to be another challenge that we're going to have to work out. And I know we're probably out of time, but I wanted to we're not going to speak to your comments, but I did want to mention there is a House bill that's been proposed. I don't know if it'll go anywhere, but it does state that we would mail everybody a ballot directly. I don't think it will pass, I'll just be honest with you, but it has been proposed in the House. There's 2 election reform bills, that one, and then there's another one that changes the time, because we mail out ballots on the Saturday before Election Day, and the odds of somebody getting that, voting it, postmarking it, and returning it is almost 0. And I'm not exaggerating, it's almost 0. We've rarely received one back in time that we mailed on Saturday afternoon.
And you guys do a great job, I can't emphasize.
Yeah,
Yes,
Thank you
yes.
very much.
I would echo that, and thank you for the update. We do need to
Yes.
run for our hearing. It's starting in a couple minutes.
Yeah.
But again, thank you all.
for taking the time for us today. It means a lot to us, and the relationship we have, I can't express that enough.
And thanks
Thank
to the
you.
team, too. I know there's a whole lot of people that make this happen.
That's right.
Give us the
That's
privilege
right.
of being the best in the state.
Come back anytime.
Thank you. We will all see you Monday.
Yeah, or call us anytime, or,
Thank
yeah.
you. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
We're going to hold off on executive session until after the hearing. So we got a couple minutes to go to open the hearing. We don't have anything else. Oh, we could do commissioner remarks, I suppose.
Well, we need to recess so we can set up the Zoom.
We need to recess for the hearing?
Yes, because we're changing our, we were actually.
Oh, okay, okay. So we'll recess. All right.
You need a time, you need,
To reconvene.
What?
We need a time to
need a time to come
Okay,
back.
so we'll recess till 11 o'clock. 10. Oh, I'm sorry, that's right, for the hearing. After the hearing, we'll come back. Okay, we'll recess till 10 for the hearing.
Okay. To grab my.